And we're live. So guys, this is the third episode of the Dealer War Room. And the only reason I created this podcast is because the older I get, the more paranoid I get.
Mhm.
Because the last financial crisis took place 18 years ago. I'm no economist, but I understand the economy is cyclical. And the last crisis was not caused by car dealers, but a lot of car dealers paid the price.
Yeah.
So the goal is to address in each episode a potential risk that the dealers can prepare for so they don't get caught flat footed when it hits the fan. And today I'm here with John Lutman, who I know for many years. He's a good friend of mine, and he is the president of RoadVantage. RoadVantage is a very well-known, reputable third-party administrator in the F&I space. And John, I spoke to you yesterday,
Yeah.
and I told you that I am 49 years old, and I have four friends that graduated from NADA Academy.
Right.
Two of them are dealer principals, two of them are general managers, and all four of them told me that reinsurance is not part of the curriculum at the NADA University.
Yeah. So I would expand. First of all, Max, thanks for having me on your show. Like this is a real treat to be part of this. I'm glad that I think about the times that you were on Jim's show, and I'm kind of glad you're taking that torch and developing your own spin on it. I think it's fantastic. So thanks for having me. Yeah, I went to NADA as well. I actually had a privilege to do that. My owner, and I didn't go to the GM school. I went to the dealer principal school, which was even they go a little bit more detailed, right? They go into successorship and things like that. But I mean, I would expand on that a little further. Just not they don't talk about reinsurance. They don't talk about participation at all. Like how do dealers participate in the underwriting profit? Because there's several different mechanisms within dealer participation that they could understand it, and they don't. I agree with that assessment. They didn't teach us anything about how to participate, whether it's with the OEM or with a TPA or just an understanding on another profit center within a dealership. So it's a little shocking to me now thinking back and knowing what I know today, and that they don't at least touch on it, right? And have those discussions with the dealer principals.
Because listen, the way I see it is that if you do understand participation, different whatever the participation program is, you can build a nest egg, right? Not for the sake of building a nest egg, but if there's a downturn and there's a liquidity crisis, you have money in that nest egg to carry you through.
You do, yeah.
So my first question, I guess, is what do you think is the percentage of dealers out there that are not either in reinsurance, a DOWC, or in a retro, or what's the percentage of dealers that are just underutilizing the available tools?
Yeah, and to me, that's a little bit of a trick question. All right, and the reason why I'm going to say this in several different ways. I think every dealer participates in some form or fashion. Okay, but are they in the right structure is a whole different percentage, right? I'm gonna use a really bad percentage here. I'm thinking 60 to 70% of the dealers are not even the right structure. But I think the percentage of dealers participating in some form or fashion of an underwriting is much higher. It's probably in the 90 to 95% range. And what I mean by that is that there's several aspects. If they're with the factories are not pushing hard to put them into a reinsurance program, usually not putting them into a retro, but they put them in this bonus program. They do these things. Because I worked for the factory. I worked for Ford for 10 years, So I know how they kind of operate. They really want them, the OEM, to participate in their reinsurance because they put that money back into R&D, back into the to the factory. So I think the bigger thing is that the education to the dealer and understanding what participation best suited for them to maximize their profitability as another profit center. It's even though it's off balance sheet from their dealership, they need to manage it like it's part of their balance sheet, right? And part of their profit centers within the store, right? I mean, depending if you have a body shop or not, you have 5 profit centers, right? So I said this is really call it the 6th profit center that is really unknown that they need to manage, and they need to understand what's best for them.
So I believe that a lot of dealers just underestimate the financial impact of a well-managed participation program.
You just said the key though, well managed, and I'm sure we're going to go into more details with that. But there's a distinct difference of just being in one and not managing properly, because we've seen in the industry lately, technology and vehicles and inflation and tariffs have caused some reinsurance companies to flip, right? If you're not partnered with the right person, if you're not partnered with the right agent, the right TPA to be able to give you enough data to support it, not partnered with the right management team surrounded by you on the participation side to stay ahead of those things and give opportunities. And I'm going to add another one, because I had a long conversation with a gentleman yesterday on investments. That's a whole other thing, right? And his name was Yancey Spivey out of Oklahoma City, and he's doing a fantastic job for him. He's got 1,000 dealer clients out there. He's doing a fantastic job with also making sure that the money that's invested in the right place can earn it too. Because I mean, if a dealer's earning 12% on their money, right, and you have a big nest egg that's sitting in reinsurance, you could practically use those investment, the interest that you make off that to pay towards claims and drive loss ratios down, right? It's money that's well made for a dealer to use for a rainy day.
But then, let's say, I think NADA only graduates 1,000 people a year.
Right.
So majority of dealers, right, whether new car dealers or independent, never go to NADA. So now the assumption is that the best and the brightest did go to NADA, and still the best and the brightest have to learn on the job when it comes to reinsurance.
Right.
So imagine the disadvantage that they're in, because learning on the job works when you sell cars.
That's right.
But I don't think it works with reinsurance, because you are just a first-time buyer, and there'll always be a situation where you're going to end up either with the wrong agent, with the wrong TPA, with the wrong product mix. And these programs are sticky.
They are.
Right? Mm-hmm. So you can be on autopilot in the wrong structure literally for a decade before you wake up.
I mean, before you realize, yeah. And the wealth in that program is gone.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. But the time is gone also.
That's very true.
So how do, let's say, what does RoadVantage do to educate dealers?
Yeah. All right. So we just don't educate dealers. We educate agents. So we have a full reinsurance department that's managed by a gentleman named Casey Blair that has extensive knowledge. He was an understudy of one of the best people best people in the business when it comes to understanding reinsurance. And Casey stays forward thinking on everything, on every product that's out there. And he works with, companies like GPW and working on and understanding structures. And we're constantly on the phone educating dealers and agents about the structure of things. Right. And our job is not to make the decisions for them. Our job is to give them options and then educate them on those options, and based on what they tell us their vision is for their long-term plan within underwriting.
So when you do that, what are the biggest misconceptions dealers have about reinsurance?
Well, the biggest misconception is that you just put it into an account and just let it earn interest, and it just runs itself, right? I think that's the biggest thing. I go back to what I said earlier. The biggest misconception is that you just leave it and forget it. I'm a firm believer that you need to work it, just like you do your sales team on your showroom floor, right? You need to be able to manage and understand the losses. Now you can't. You could overmanage it, meaning you can look at losses every single month, and your head would spin, because they'll fluctuate depending on the market, the time of year, the make of vehicles. But what I mean by that is that need to be able to look at, you need to be partnered with somebody who at least come in at least twice a year, sit down and do an underwriting performance review with the book of business to understand what it's doing, down to the product line. I mean, down to the make and model. Like we're seeing pickup trucks right now, especially in Ford and Chevy, the losses are starting to creep up on those things. That's the kind of information they need to understand. And then they can modify their rates or make adjustments based on that. There's so many factors that go into a loss ratio in the dealership. Keep in mind, if you work for a TPA, you're paying customer pay labor rates, when you're paying it out of your reinsurance company. One option would be that they can lower their labor rates to their factory time, to their factory labor rates, right? That's another option instead of rate increases. So you manage it. It's your money, Mr. Dealer. Like at the end of the day, it could be your retirement. It could be also, you could use it for, just disposable income if you manage it right. And you wouldn't take, I would ask a dealer, how do you manage your own finances at home? Like you probably have a much trusted advisor that's your accountant. You probably have a great attorney, right? Well, this is we're talking about millions and millions of dollars in some instances, right? I mean, we're at close to 2.9 if for just one reinsurance company, 2.9 you're allowed to cede in a yearly basis. $2.9 million is no chump change, right? And then you take it a little further. If you have multiple reinsurance companies, you can expand that out. If you have what we call a retail cost accounting reinsurance company, you can put as much as you want in there. If you have a DOWC, you have the same scenario, right? All that money needs to be managed properly. And it's also the behavior of the store on how you manage that in your service lane is just as important. So everything goes hand in hand when you deal with the underwriting performance of a dealership.
Listen, I agree with you, but I've met dealers that are in reinsurance for 5, 10, 20 years, and they've never reviewed the reinsurance structure.
They should be looking at their session statements every single month.
So what questions should they be asking when they finally look at that statement?
Yeah, so one, they need to be asking, they should be looking at their average written reserve. They should be looking at making sure all their contracts there are going into the reinsurance company. They should be looking at if the trends, if the loss ratio is going up. They should always look at their trust balance to understand how that's performing, and making sure that when it becomes earned, because there's unearned premium and there's earned premium, that they're sweeping the earned premium into a safety account. I call it a B account, right? Where they can have access to those earned funds at any given time. In some cases, there's some products out there. We have it. There's some where you have access to unearned premium to use to your advantage. So in the session statement, they need to ask if they don't know. They need somebody to walk them through line by line on the numbers and compare it to the previous month, the previous 6 months, the previous year, and see how the trends are going, and ask questions. If your loss ratio goes up, can you give me the detail on why it's going up? What is it going up in new or used? Is it going up to a specific product line? Is my service department combing the cars when they come in? Is my used car manager combing the vehicles, but when the trade comes in, to make sure we put it on to get it on the vehicle service contract from the previous from that buyer's previous purchase before they cancel it? Things like that shows a lot of different things. And the session statement is decent detail to look on a monthly basis, but like I said, I go back to at least once a quarter, twice a year, you should be asking for the detail underwriting performance on everything. Severity, What's my severity? What's my average written reserve? What's my loss cost? Let me take a look at my claims. Like, give me a list of my claims over $5,000 over the last 6 months. I would love to see what's causing that, those type of things. And a good partner would already start doing that. A good partner will already have that prepared because and if any agents are on this, they need to know that the more you do this, the more frequently you do this with the dealer, the more sticky you become with the dealer as well, right? Because you're becoming their most trusted advisor, especially on their underwriting performance.
Yeah. So then, listen, the goal is to get dealers prepared for any type of contingency. So in this case, it's F&I, right? So I'd like to give them, here a crash course, right? So let's say if you want to do it right. So the first question is, what mistakes do dealers make when selecting a TPA?
I would say the first thing is that they directly go to, what's my admin fee?
Right, that's an admin fee fetish.
That's it. Yeah, I think, and I'm not going to discredit that. There's that's not important for the dealer. But I think dealers' first mistake is say, hey, what's my admin fee? I want to know what my admin fee, and you immediately equate the lowest admin fee to be the best program for you. In actuality, that's not always the case. If you have a really, really low admin fee, likelihood there's a good reason why. Nothing as what it seems on the surface.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But then let's say two TPAs offer similar products, which is always the case. So what do dealers should look at, and how do they make a decision to go with TPA A versus TPA B?
Yeah, and
products look the same.
The devil's in the details is how I say it, Max, because even though the thing is everybody's got a vehicle service contract there, everybody's got a bundle, it's really not, they're not all equal. You have to look at the details of what you wanted to provide to the consumer. You want to look at the details within the contract. You want to understand also the process and the way they adjudicate claims. You want to understand is like, hey, do you want to be able to fight every customer that comes in your service lane to try to save every dollar you can? Or do you want to be in a situation where you do want to run that on autopilot and not have any heat involved and have a product that's upgradable? So one of the things that I would look at if I was sitting in a dealership and understanding two TPAs, tell me about your process, right? Tell me what type of reporting you're going to be able to provide me within the reinsurance company. Tell me about your claims adjudication process, right? Tell me how you're going to protect me as the dealer, but also service my clients the best way you can, because I don't want any customer sitting in my service lane. I think it's also important, this is not a direct reflection on profitability, but it could be if you think about it, because you want to know how quickly you answer the phone, how quickly you're going to get my claim approved. Because you got to remember, TPAs are competing with the OEMs in that case. All that's OEMs, they don't call claims into OEMs, they just do them, right? And then you have to wait to see if an audit ever comes around the corner, right? They get paid through their parts statement for the most part. Right, TPAs are a little different because everything is paid usually by credit card. It's pretty quick, or ACH, and they have to call in the claim, get the pre-authorization. Where on the OEM they can look it up. Well, that process, time is money, right? And that process has to be dialed in at a TPA. So even if you have the same identical contracts, it may not be the same on the way they process. How long does it take it before you seed the money into the reinsurance company? Some people are 60, 90 days out. Some people are 30 days out, right?
Right. And the customer experience when they call in to file a claim, right?
That's the whole thing. And Max, let's talk about customer experience for a minute. Everybody's a customer, whoever calls into a TPA. That's the dealership or the customer who has the vehicle, right? A lot of people think customer experience is focused on just on the end user, but the way we look at it at RoadVantage, the customer experience, the dealer is our customer. When they call in, how customer friendly are we prepared to take care of that claim, get that in and out, then fix the vehicle and get the customer back on the street? Because that's an important factor on.
Okay, I agree with you because the bad customer experience, especially if it's not the dealer who's calling, but the contract holder,
Right.
right? That bad customer experience is a direct reflection on the dealer's reputation, even though
It
the
is.
dealer had no control over
None.
that customer experience.
None. And that's the thing is like, it's like, you know, I'm gonna I'm gonna plug us for a second. I mean, we won our 10th year in Dealer Choice Awards for the top ancillary provider for the Dealer Choice Awards. That's 10 years, and we've been in existence for 15 years. Our company has. I don't think, and, you know, it's funny because we were talking about this the other day. I don't think anybody has done 10 years in a row diamond in ancillary products ever, and we probably know, but there's not going to be too many people that probably do that again, you know. So we were pretty proud of that, and it goes back to several things. First of all, it goes back to the designing of the program, right? Designing of the products. So often right now today, products are designed in such a way where there's few gotchas in there to mitigate loss, right? We eliminated all those. We eliminated all those gotchas within the contracts. I'll just give you one example, right? Tire and wheel, right? So often there's a 330 seconds, right? If the tire
Yes,
gets a nail in
and
it and
most
it's 230 seconds, it's denied, right? We have no limitation on the tire tread on ours. Like those are little, we looked at the data, we supported it on that it doesn't increase the loss ratio that much, right? And on turn, we can also go to the dealer and say, hey, by the way, we don't have this limitation, so our reserves are slightly higher. Therefore, that way you still can perform, but still also take care of the customer. Because at the end of the day, if the customer walks in the service lane and they're at 230 seconds, you tell them, hey, by the way, your tire is not is not covered. You got to come out of pocket $250. The dealer or somebody ends up eating the money anyway. At the end of the day, it's either the dealer, the agent, or the TPA if it's a dealer that pushes hard enough, that does a lot of business with them. So why have it? Like those are the things that we look at, and that's just one example of multiple things in our VSC and our ancillary products that we've done, and we explain that to the dealer, and that's a major difference. Not to mention the employees who are managing the phone calls. How are they acting like that on the phone as for the customer experience? How quickly? I mean, we answer the phone 90 seconds, and within 20 seconds or less, 90% of the time. Like, there's not a lot of people who can say that. We pay our claims within 1 hour when we receive the final invoice from the dealer. All our claims combined, including GAP, VSC, everybody across the line, we'll approve the claim within 7 minutes or less. Right. So we get a decision back pretty quickly. That again, to the dealer, time is money. You want your customers, you sell them a car, you pay. We talked about this the other day. Advertising expense in a dealership is ridiculous. You spent all this money for one car sale. Now you have them back in your service lane just to screw that up, and then they go somewhere else to buy a second car. You're paying. You want to make sure that you take care of them from the time that they buy the car to the time they walk into your dealership to buy a vehicle to the time that, you know, the life of that vehicle and servicing it.
So the next question, where do you see TPAs adding the most value beyond claims administration or adjudication?
So I mean, there's so many different areas that they can do that. We talked about participation briefly. Counting is another one. Dealers have overrides. Let's call for what it is. That's their money. How are you protecting that? You know, giving them data to support that, paying them quickly on those things. If a dealer wants to change, you know, have a change within the dealership within a specific product, how quickly can you install that change? That's important. Having the ability to have, you know, support the agent and the dealer on anything. I mean, dealers tend to come up with great ideas, you know, new product ideas, which we get a lot from dealers and agents. You know, being able to bring those to market for them quickly. That's another way that TPAs need to support their dealer.
What about training? Do you believe that TPA should provide F&I training?
I think it's a combination. And you know, I'll defer. It depends on the agent, right? You know, you have agency representation at the dealership level, right? And then you have TPAs who do direct to dealers, right? I think you have to provide multiple layers of training. I don't think you could just provide product training. Like you have to, it's almost like being part of a big 20 group, with a TPA, because we have a lot of data. We also see a lot of things out in the marketplace. So dealers should tap into that and say, hey, what do you see? I'm struggling with this. What do you see in the marketplace and how can you help us do it? So I believe TPAs continually needs to find ways to invest in technology, right, as well as training to provide that to dealers right now.
Right. Me personally, I don't believe that TPAs should provide F&I training.
Why do you say that, Max?
I'll tell you why. Because let's say you send a trainer to a dealership with best intentions, right? Mm-hmm. The trainer works for you. The trainer is not an employee of a car dealership.
Sure.
And therefore, his authority is very close to zero.
True.
So what usually happens, and I'm speaking from experience, is that the finance department, will yes that trainer to death for the 3 days that this poor guy is there. And then once the trainer is gone, they all go back to the way they're used to doing business. Right. So what I tell dealers is that, you have to be realistic, right? And you can sit in your office and have this perception of training taking place, but it's just a perception. It's not a reality. The real training is when the dealer comes downstairs, right, and has a meeting with an F&I department and says, guys, this is what we need to do. This is my expectations. And if you cannot fulfill them, right, you should not be working here. I will provide all the resources when it comes to training, because you can get F&I training not just from a TPA, right? You can get
I don't see
trainers.
Yeah.
From YouTube, from reading books, right? From role playing, but you have to do something about it.
Right.
Right. So to me, I think the dealer has to be ultimately involved in order for any training to be effective.
Okay. So where we differ, right? Because my background, right? Because not only was I with an agency and I did income development as an agency, training and development. When our agency got bought, now I was doing training as a TPA, right? First and foremost, okay, if a dealer wants to maximize profit in their F&I department, it starts with number one, dealer commitment. If the dealer is not committed, it'll never, ever, ever work. So you and I agree with that, right? The second thing is that, as I look at it, is that if you want to maximize profitability in your F&I department, you need to have a systems and process with accountability. And again, I'm going back. You need to have a process, right? What it looks like could deviate from dealer to dealer, right? But whatever your process is, it's 100% of the time. The second part about it is the accountability. It goes back to the first thing, the dealer commitment. If your systems and process is in place and you have no accountability anywhere in your store to follow those processes, it'll never work, right? So when you're looking at that, you still get dealer commitment, systems and process with accountability. I think you agree with that part.
Yes, I do agree with it.
Here's the third thing. You and I both know, if we are in an industry where everybody was driven, self-driven, you and I would be out of a job. If everybody in the F&I office were self-driven, meaning that they don't need anything to motivate them. They're just driven. They just want to be the best of the best all the time, and it doesn't matter. It's just self-driven. We'd be out of a job. But we know that doesn't happen. So you have to have the third thing is you have to have a compensation plan that simulates driving that behavior of the dealer's vision. Here I go back. It's not the TPA's, it's not the agent's vision, it's the dealer's vision, right? So these are in my order. Like that, I mean, this is the order that I know that's successful. And really you could do this for any business today if you have these, just changing the names a little bit, right? Then
I agree with you. But again, without dealer commitment,
You don't have anything.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, you can be the
Because
best CPA in the world.
if I'm going into the store training, if the dealer's not committed, I'm a lame duck. Like,
Yeah, that's it.
it doesn't matter, right? But there was times that I went into a store where I had that problem, right? I had that issue where the F&I manager wasn't performing because they weren't following the process. Me as the trainer could never hold them accountable because I don't have the firing or hiring capabilities from the store. But I could tell you if the dealer's committed on it, I could tell you when the performance is not there, there's many times there's one thing that could happen. Both me and the F&I manager could get fired. I could get fired. He could get fired, right? So when you walk in and you're not performing, there's many times after when I left the dealer, it's like, hey, I can't get this guy on board, so we got to hold him accountable. But this is how I want you to handle it. I want you to bring me into your office with him and basically threaten both of us. If you don't follow, I'm firing you for not getting him, helping him do this, right? And a lot of times that tipped the F&I manager quick because he understood, or he or she understood, that the dealer is now 100% committed. Like, I remember there was a store in New Jersey. I'll never forget this. We closed, and you probably even know the agent. I'm not going to say the agent's name. You probably know the agent. It was in New Jersey. This was early on in my career, and the dealer principal is ready to make a change. I'm making a change. And we said, okay, you got some old dogs in the F&I department, right? They do okay, but they don't do great, right? When they come to you and tell you that I'm not doing this, I'm leaving. If you don't walk them out the door at that time, you're done.
You lost the
deal.
The battle.
And I'm 100% committed. We're 100% committed. We want to get better in F&I. I mean, they weren't that good. They had to suck to get better, to get better. And the problem is that we went and installed. Literally, when we installed, that gentleman walked in our office and said, "Hey, I'm not doing this." She cowed down. We literally packed our stuff up and left. Like, we literally said, "Hey, we can't partner with you, Mr. Dealer," because that wasn't there. We will never, because at the end of the day, at the end of the day, if we don't get them to their vision, we're getting fired anyway, right? So that's not a partnership in that case.
But
And dealers need to look for TPAs who are willing to be that partner. If they're really truly committed to make a difference, then they need to look at TPAs and agents alike that are going to have their back and really commit to them as well.
But I think a lot of dealers are petrified at looking at their business objectively. Because if they mystery shopped on a regular basis their own dealership, I think it would be multiple sleepless nights.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll give you the simplest example, right? I guarantee you speak to any dealer and you say, "Hey, Mr. Dealer, Miss Dealer, what kind of menu do you use?" Right? And they're going to give you answers: Darwin, Maxim Track, right? Vision. Doesn't matter.
Right.
And then you ask them, "When was the last time you ran a utilization report?" And the conversation is over. Right? Because all you got to do, like, you go in Darwin and you run the utilization report. And if it doesn't say 100%,
right,
then what are we doing? Right?
Right.
Like, you don't need a TPA for that. You don't need a trainer for that. You need to be honest as a dealer and mystery shop your process.
It goes back to systems of process with accountability. Like that's the part. I mean, the best process could never work if you don't have the accountability behind it. I mean, you're right. You hit it, and that's where a lot of even good dealerships can't become great, because they're not following the process 100% of the time. They're not adhering to what they know that works in the business. I mean, the business is really not that simple. I mean, not that difficult. It's really simple. I mean, I go back to, I think I told you this story. Like, I started in the car business. I was with Ford. I left Ford. I went to go work at a dealership in Annapolis, Maryland, Coons Ford. Joe Coons, still one of my best friends today. And they hired me to be a sales manager right out of the gate. I never sold cars I never sold cars. And I remember my first day on the job. I picked up Jim Ziegler, and I had to go to his, because he hired him, Jim Ziegler. I went to his class. I went in there, learned his process. That's the only process I knew how to sell a car in the car dealership. And I remember I had a sticky note on my computer when I was a sales manager. Followed Jim Ziegler's process 100% of the time. Like it was that's all it said. So when a salesperson came up, tried to circumvent the process, I saw that sticker. I went, whoa, slow down. That's not how we do. That's not how we do it. Because I didn't have any bad habits. I didn't know any different. I ran bigger numbers than anybody who's been in the car business in that store before. That you had people in there that had 20 years of experience selling cars. I as a sales manager on the desk. My salespeople, the team, ran bigger numbers, bigger gross numbers than anybody else in a time that front end gross wasn't. And it's because we followed the process, right? It's also because I got off the desk after the first pencil and took a TO. It's like all those things. Salespeople and sales managers know what to do. The dealer has to put their foot down and say, look, I got to inspect it all the time. I got to look at the logs. I got to look. Hey, give me your worksheets. I was, as a GSM, following that process, I told everybody to give me your worksheets at the end of every day and put them on my desk. And every morning I would go through them and I'm going to go, okay, that right there wasn't the process. That's where it failed. That's where it broke. I'd bring them in the office, sit them down, say, look, this is where we can't do this. This is why you didn't get the deal. This is why you didn't close the deal, or this is why you lost money on the deal.
Yeah. Listen, I think, again, like if they just mystery shop the process on a regular basis, it would make everybody's life easier, because I'm not just talking about F&I, right? I mean, God forbid you're going to mystery shop your parts to service department.
That's true too.
Because there's so many places where the system can break down. And if you don't do the right thing in service, the chances of the customer coming back to buy another car tanks.
That's right.
So you have to mystery shop all of it. But speaking of Jim Ziegler, he had one of the greatest lines, that F&I department is the most profitable department in the dealership per square foot.
That's true.
It is true. But I think a lot of dealers, they pump their chest and they're like, oh, look, my guy is at $2,800 or $3,200 in the back, right? And then this guy is selling one product. So what you end up having is price gouging, not enough product penetration. So not enough premium dollars are going into the reinsurance company.
Yeah, I mean, that's the first thing that I do when I look at a dealership that even if they're running, I mean, $3,200, $3,500, that's a big number. I mean, there's no question about it. So the first thing I ask, or first thing I think about when I walk in the store and observe, is that truly coming from F&I, or is that coming from the front desk? Because a lot of times when a dealer runs big numbers in F&I, it's not because the F&I managers are stout. It's because they're just filling a shopping cart that the front end allowed them to do, right? So when you look at stores that are really performing well, it's both. It's the sales managers and the F&I managers working in tandem on every deal that really maximizes both profitability for the front and the back. And if you see really big numbers, it's usually you see them. You got a really good person. They're running 2 to 3 products per in on the back, and the sales managers understands the process, and the TO process is dialed in to the F&I managers to making sure that it's seamless for the customer. Because normally customers you run big numbers like that, you see customers are really happy when they leave too. They're not feeling like they just got grinded back there. There is like that spot where you're running like good numbers in F&I where like every customer is just grinding, but then there's a telltale sign that that's a problem, because you'll have cancellations through the roof. But if you go and see some of these bigger stores that I've seen, the front end is working with the back end in tandem, and your customers are really happy because they.
Let me ask you this: let's say $2,800, but $700 of it is reserve.
Yeah,
and we all know it's soft money, right? It can be charged back anytime, right?
Sure.
People trade in cars, people get into accidents, pay off cars early. So would you pay, right? Because pay plans drive behavior. So would you pay a finance manager the same percentage across the board, whether it's a product sale or reserve, or would you pay less on the reserve to push more product penetration?
The way I like compensation plans is I would say it's more towards products. It's overall PVR is the baseline. You have that, and then you have a water line on vehicle service So the way I envision it is like there's a KPI board, right? And you have you know if you want to get to 2,500, you know exactly what percentage of VSC at what dollar amount, what gap percentage at what dollar amount, what ancillary bundle at what dollar amount, and let's say theft with what dollar amount. Like that's just, I'm just giving you an example. What 4 to 5 products max on a menu. Anything outside that, you're going to put the customer in decision paralysis because you're just throwing everything up against the ceiling. So I actually look at it as a compensation plan falls in line with that vision where you have a water line for VSC and you would have a percentage. You get more percentage as you go above the water line, and then you get less percentage, meaning you got detractors if you go below the water line, right? So let's say you start out at let's say you start at 10%, right? To pay the F&I manager on a PVR at $2,000. Well, if the water line is 40% BSC penetration, as you climb up, you'll get additional percentage on that 10% as you go up higher on BSC, right? And maybe it caps out at 12 or 13%. Then each product will also add additional. Now, if you were below it, you're at 10% and you went below the water line, meaning you're below 40% penetration. You're now at 9. Like it would deter, like, and because you want the fear of loss and the want to gain within a compensation plan to drive the behavior. But when you look at it, the percentage as a whole, it's geared towards more the penetrations and the dollars per contract on each product than it would be reserve. Reserve is the reserve nowadays. I mean, you always got to be prepared because it's been threatened for years, but you always got prepared that reserve could, if this reserve disappears, you have to be able to still perform in your F&I department as if it was here today, right?
Right. But then
it's always at risk.
But then I think in order to increase product penetration, I mean, I tell dealers to put a price cap on each product.
Yeah.
To push them to sell more, because you know how finance managers are, path of least resistance.
Yeah.
Let me sell tire and wheel and make 1,500 and move on with my life.
Right.
So I would put a cap, maybe I would say on a tire and wheel, maybe $500.
Yeah, I think you still got to, for compliance reasons, you should put caps on things. I mean, you don't want somebody to sell etch for 15 grand. I mean, you just don't, you want to be reasonable. You want to put the checks and balances in place to make sure you protect your dealership on those things. And those are best practices within the store.
Right. And I think another topic that you and I should discuss is the fact that now we can do reinsurance in the service department, right? By offering a lifetime warranty on customer pay labor repair orders.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think vast majority of new car dealers are missing out on it.
No, they are. You're talking about the product, like our Pay Once product.
Yeah.
Yeah, because selling vehicle service contracts in the server lane is not easy. Like a full vehicle,
almost impossible.
Well, because here they are, they got a $3,000 repair, and then you're going to have them pay for that on a customer pay, and then, oh, by the way, I'm going to sell you a $3,000 vehicle service contract for your future. It just doesn't work. Whereas if that $3,000 repair was going to be repaired and it's going to be covered for lifetime for pennies on the dollar, right? Pennies on the dollar, then that also gives if your dealership has that program within your service lane, it makes you different from the dealerships down the road. And it gives you it makes it different from all the independent repair shops, which is really your real competition.
Right. And the reason I bring this up is because I'm going to give you some alarming statistics, right? Because I believe that if there's an economic downturn, the first thing that goes is the demand for vehicle sales, right?
That's right.
So that means people will service cars.
Well, and Max, we're starting to hit a flexion point now, and I'll tell you why. Gas prices going up, tariffs are going up. I'm telling you, people, and we're seeing it. We're seeing the increase in claims. Right? People are driving more now than they are flying because of how expensive it is to travel. Right? They're either deciding to stay at home a little bit or just drive an hour or two away. And people are starting to repair their vehicles a lot more frequently and maintaining them more frequently. As a TPA, that's one of the indicators that we've seen over the last 6 months, especially with what's going on in Iran and everything else with the gas prices up, that actually losses have creeped up a little bit because we're seeing people demand higher to go get their vehicles fixed.
Right, but the problem is that there's several reasons for it. Convenience, right? Or the perception that the dealer is more expensive.
Right.
And here's the alarming stat I want to give you. 19 million people a year go to Jiffy Lube. 30 million people a year go to Valvoline. Another 12 million people a year go to Midas and Meineke.
It's a lot.
We're not even talking about independent mechanics. We're not talking about Firestone. We're not talking about...
you're talking about the big box independents.
So we listen, this is 100 million customer pay labor repair orders slipping through dealers' fingers.
Right.
Right? Because they have no compelling message to advertise.
Right.
And providing a lifetime warranty in your service drive on the customer pay labor repair order will help you retain customers.
It does.
Win back customers, right? Because why would I go to Meineke or Minus?
Right.
Right. And then the fact that you can reinsure it.
That's true.
Another profit center.
Yeah.
So to me, again, I would say 90% of dealers are not doing it.
Yeah, I think it's probably more like 98% of the dealerships.
There you go.
I mean, we're seeing it. I mean, we're getting a lot of play on that product ourselves, and there's a lot of other TPAs that are doing the same thing. We have a little different spin on ours because we allow for commercial vehicles as well in that mix.
And you should, right? Because if I'm a dealer, I'm going to take that program.
Customer pay is customer pay.
Right. But talking about commercial vehicles, right? If I want to get fleet business, right? Whether from the city, from Amazon.
Sure.
Right? Sure. This would be my closing tool.
Yeah. Hey, when you get your car repaired here, you'll never have to worry about making that repair ever again on that vehicle.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So again, I think, if they really want to get ready, this is where I would start immediately.
Right.
Right? Because service is everything, And then listen, since we're coming to an end, I want to do like a rapid fire, just to see, if you and I are on the same page. So
okay, let's do that.
Reserve or retro?
What? Say that again.
Would you do like retro or reinsurance?
Reinsurance all day long.
Okay. Dealer obligor or admin obligor?
Admin obligor.
Perfect.
And you know why, right? Because you're not answering. So I'm assuming you're on. You'll tell me when you disagree with me, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But let's talk about dealer obligor real quick because a lot of dealers do not understand the difference.
Contingent liability is the first thing that comes to mind. It goes on your financial statement if it's dealer obligor. The clip from the insurance company goes directly to you, and you put it on your books. You put it on your dealer financial statement.
You lose the tax benefit.
You lose the tax benefit. Yeah.
Okay. So then one product every dealer should stop selling.
One product that a dealership should stop selling?
Yeah.
Ooh. I'm going to get, and I won an award for this. Somebody's going to brutally I think they should stop selling chemicals. I'm not a chemical fan.
I think you should stop selling window edging.
That's another one. You say window etching. I don't do window etching. We don't do window etching. We have a different thing for that. But certain areas of the country, all right, I would agree. But there's certain areas in the country that demand. California, you definitely have to have it. Like up in the Pacific Northwest seems to be another area that vehicles get stolen a lot. But yeah, chemicals tends to be an inherent problem for dealers because they have to stock the chemical. They got to make sure it gets applied properly.
Which it never does.
Right, and you can get an interior exterior in most states without even having to apply a chemical. Like our bundles have interior, our Supreme Advantage Max has interior, exterior attached to it. There is no chemical. So everybody's, oh, well, yeah, but it's non-cancelable. Look, at the end of the day, if you sell it right in F&I, your cancellation rate goes down. Like it's not that
Listen, John, I learned a long time ago.
Yeah.
It can say non-cancelable, but everything in life is cancelable. But
It's right.
Attorney General knocks on your door.
Yeah,
everything.
The customer's upset enough, you're going to cancel the product for them.
Yeah, yeah. So then, what's the one product that every dealer should sell?
Oh, I mean that's VSC. I mean everybody should.
But what if it's a high lease penetration area? You can't sell a VSC.
Well, they still, you still have it. I mean, you can. I'm a bundle guy. I mean, I think bundles are important because that applies to every vehicle that comes off your lot.
I would say dealer-owned prepaid maintenance. If you can,
that's another one. Yeah, that's another one. But it's funny you say that because I've been hit pretty hard on prepaid maintenance over my years as a TPA, and as an agent, I wanted my TPA to have it. And we have it. We have prepaid maintenance, and it does a fantastic job. But here's the kicker about prepaid maintenance. There's two types of prepaid maintenance. There's one that is an F&I profit center, and there's one that's a dealer retention tool. Okay. Mm-hmm. Most dealers want to do an F&I profit center, which is horrible for them. Where if you focus on dealer retention, where you put it on some form or fashion on every car, and when a customer drives off the lot and you drive them back to your service lane, then I'm 100% behind you on that one. I agree with you. Then prepaid maintenance should be in every dealership. But the problem is, to
me, the mistake that dealers make is by selling OEM prepaid maintenance.
Yeah, that's because they never get the benefit of the spoilage. Like we provide 100%. That's their money. They set the reserve, right? And you can reinsure it. We just lower the reserve to have an inherent risk to put it in the reinsurance company. We put a clip on it so that all the lenders take it. But you're absolutely right. But the key is, if you really want prepaid maintenance to work, you do a preload with a small preload, call it a year maybe, and then you upsell it in F&I, and you have best of both worlds. Because you want prepaid maintenance is supposed to drive the RO count up in your dealership.
That's it. So right,
and I agree with you on that. If they use that one, but if they use it as an F&I profit center and they hit 25% or 30% penetration in F&I, it doesn't. You're wasting your money. Yeah,
waste of time.
Yeah.
So then next, most underrated F&I metric.
Most underrated F&I metric. I mean, I would say percent of reserve.
I agree with you.
I think people don't track it enough. I mean, they don't look at it. And I don't mean that it needs to be high. I mean, the lower you are, the better off you are, right?
Exactly. But then what's the most overrated F&I metric?
I mean, most overrated F&I measure is F&I penetration. Who cares about what your F&I penetration is? You should be able to make money, whether it's a cash customer or an F&I customer or a finance customer.
Agreed.
Finance penetration. I said F&I penetration. I meant finance penetration.
So let me guess, how long you've been doing this? Like between Ford, selling cars, working for an agency, TPA, 25, 30 years?
I'm 33 years, man.
33 years. So
I can't believe I just said that number on live. 33 years. I'm 54. I know you're not 50 yet, but I'm 54. So
here's the question. What's one belief about F&I that you held 20 years ago that you've changed your mind about?
One belief that I had in F&I 20 years ago that I changed my belief.
You feel differently about it now.
Oh, God. I mean, 20 years ago, you're talking about when I was with Ford, when I got into the business.
Yeah.
I thought in the beginning, F&I they were just paper pushers. Like they were just clerks. Like, I mean, that's what my perception was like when we got into it. I mean, today, I mean, obviously it's one of the most important, if not the most important,
Profit center.
Profit center in the dealership, because it's the one department within the dealership that the market doesn't change, that the market doesn't dictate the profitability of it. And I don't mean that the number of cars, I'm talking about PVR, like the penetration thing, like, right. It's the one that is resistant to market changes. Unlike car sales, selling cars, the front end profit,
Sure.
even parts and service has that issue. It's the one that stays constant, and it's the one that's probably the most resilient.
Yep. So the last one for the rapid fire. What's one book every dealer principal should read?
One book every dealer. Oh, I don't know. Gosh, Max.
I'll give you mine.
I know it's probably going to be yours.
No. So recently I read a book written by Lloyd Blankfein. He was the CEO of Goldman Sachs for 12 years. And he was the CEO during the financial crisis.
Okay.
And he has an entire chapter in the book dedicated to paranoia.
Yeah.
He says, my job as the CEO is to be paranoid about the business.
I like that.
And I think that's what dealers need to do, because I don't see that level of paranoia in automotive retail. And I think it's the franchise.
Yeah. And the one that comes to mind, because you just sparked to it, because there's one. I mean, I'm a big fan of Good to Great, that book, but because I do think that the other thing that they're missing, the paranoia is actually important, but I also think culture is missing from the car dealerships. I mean, that's and you have to be able to build if you build a really good culture, especially in the automotive, you'll find that your turnover will go way down. Like, people are going to want to want to be there because of the culture.
Yeah, I agree. So listen, to finish this up, I'm just going to say the following, right? That every time a dealer decides not to reinsure an F&I product, someone else still reinsures it.
Yeah. That's great. Somebody's benefiting from now, I say benefiting. Some people don't benefit from it, right? There's certain things I struggle with.
But the underwriting profit, investment income, and the tax benefits accrue to someone else.
Yeah.
So
as a TPA, as a TPA, that's a good point. And as a TPA, I don't want to participate in the underwriting profit. Right. People think that we do, but as a TPA, if we had zero underwriting profit or loss, we're absolutely happy.
Okay, but then if you could leave the dealer principals with the final thought about taking ownership of their future via F&I, what would it be?
Ask a lot of questions. Look into your participation that you currently have. Ask a lot of questions. Educate yourself as much as possible. Don't just ask one person. Ask multiple people, right? Because you have a vision for your store on the front end, on how many cars you want to sell, where the profitability. You use that motivation for that the same way you would with your reinsurance company or your participation side.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, John, we spent an hour, and listen, I hope people get the importance of F&I and get ready, right? And get ready in F&I, get ready in the service drive. Because again, I don't know when, but I know for sure there'll be a crisis.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Well, thanks for having me, Max. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, John.
Take care.
All right.